Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I am your host, Karen E. Osborne. I am so glad you're here. We love that you're back. If this is new to you, if you haven't seen any episodes, there are a year's worth, and you meet the coolest people like you're going to meet today. So my guest today is Rachel Howzell. Is that correct? How did I pronounce?
Howzell, the emphasis on
Howzell.
the different syllable.
Howzell. Thank you. Rachel Howzell Hall, critically acclaimed author and Los Angeles Times Book Prize finalist for And Now She's Gone. She's also a New York Times bestseller, author of The Good Sister with James Patterson. That's going to be one of my first questions. I have to ask her how she met James Patterson and how did that all work out? And her current thriller, which I have just finished, is called These Toxic Things. And she also has a new novel coming out that she's all about as well. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to see you again and to talk again about books and what we're writing, what we're reading, what we're imagineering. So thank you.
Yes. Rachel and I have another thing in common. We share the not-for-profit world. And we were recently on a panel together of development people, fundraising people, people who do things in that nonprofit space who also write fiction. Who knew? So I want to start, though, where I gave the tease. And that is, how did it turn out? It's like 3 different authors wrote this book with James Patterson. Tell us about it.
So it was really kind of random. It was around 2016, and I was working my day job, and it was a Friday at 4. And we all know Fridays at 4 for anything, you're pretty much done for the week. So I was tired, working mom and working mom / novelist. So my brain's fried. My agent calls me, and whenever I see Jill's name, my agent, in my phone, I get very excited, even though I'm tired, but it's like, okay, this is good. And she calls and said, so I just had a very interesting conversation with James Patterson's editor. He's read your LA stories, the Lou Norton series that I wrote. And he wants to know if you're interested in co-writing a story with him. And it was a Friday at 4, and I was tired. And I said, I'll think about it. Not thinking, this is freaking James Patterson, but I'm tired. It's Friday at 4. One more thing to do, one more thing. But my husband, we went out for tacos and margaritas that night. And he's like, why are you tripping? And I'm like, I know, I'm just tired. Of course I want to do it. So I immediately emailed my agent back and was like, yes, I will co-write a story with James Patterson. So it was really cool. If anyone listening has read a James Patterson story, you flip the pages. His chapters are like that. And it's art, actually. No matter what you think of him as, a writer or whatever, he has it down. He has the formula down. And that is how he taught me. So we first started with an outline, and he helped me kind of hone down what the idea was. He told me, you come up with something. So I came up with the idea. So we got the outline down. And then we started the hard work. And it was hard for me because, we're novelists. I write 80, 90,000 word stories. And this story was supposed to be 30,000. So that's a lot of stuff I'm cutting out. Mm-hmm. And I would send him 10,000 words each pass. And he's like, cut that out, cut that out, cut that out. It needs to move. So I learned how to write like James Patterson in that. It's like cutting out all the extra stuff that's not really needed, but us as novelists, we like doing. And I learned how to chop a 45, 50,000 word story, that what it was, to become a lean 30. And it was incredible. I still use those techniques of, as Elmore Leonard says, cutting out the boring stuff. Because you do, especially if you're writing genre, you do want people to turn the page and turn the page. And I learned about how to do a proper cliffhanger and starting a chapter the way I ended the previous chapter. All the tricks that he does, he taught me. And it was, of course, I was paid probably more than what I was paid for the series, but there was invaluable lessons in how he writes, how he sees writing, all those things that he talks about in his masterclass. I got to understand it firsthand, and I will forever.
In process.
Yeah, and I got to meet one. I landed on the New York Times with him, best-selling list, and so I get to say that. And I also got to meet a lot of people who read him and never met me. So he introduced me to
a whole new audience.
A whole new audience.
That is just fabulous. I love that. That is a great story. He's been doing a lot of that with celebrities. So you were his first celebrity.
That's fun. Yes. Well, and it also gives it gives me some heft, some weight, some credibility when I go into spaces where people like, and it's like, well, I co-wrote a story with James Patterson, and then it changes because it's like, well, he wouldn't have just pulled anybody out from the swamp, and it's like, no, so
he saw your writing. He liked your writing.
Yeah, and whenever, a lot of us creatives, we have that imposter pack syndrome that we sometimes go through. Whenever I feel that way or feel like I haven't accomplished anything, my husband will remind me, well, you wrote with James Patterson. It's like,
and landed on the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
There's that.
Yeah. So
that is awesome. Are you still in touch? Are you still in touch with him?
No. One day, I really don't have any wedges left to take to write something else away from what I'm already doing. But my daughter's going into college, so there'll be some time for me to, just not doing soccer every week will give me time back. So
Is she going far from home?
She's going to Oregon, University of Oregon. Go Ducks. Yes. Yeah. So then it's a direct flight into Eugene from Los Angeles. So she's far enough. We could drive there if the zombies ever come and get her and come back. But, far.
It's far enough, but it's close in case you need to get that's the best. So I just finished reading, as you know, I was reading These Toxic Things, which I loved.
Thank you.
A terrific thriller. But one of the things that really hit me that I just wanted to get your why on it is there wasn't a stereotype around in that story. For the audience, it's a book about a Black family, and it's certainly a Black family that I know, but the world doesn't know.
Exactly.
And I wanted to just talk to me a little bit about that, about why that was important, why you chose it that way.
It's exactly what you just said. You know that family, but the world doesn't know that family, which means the world doesn't know Black people because we are so different. There's some similarities and some constants. The way, our code switching and all that, but there are so many different versions of who we are, just like in every culture. And I wanted to share that. I wanted to have a story where Black folks especially could say, oh yeah, that, but also, oh, that's a little different. Okay, but I get it. I wanted it to reflect Black life in Los Angeles, because a lot of times when people think about Black life, they don't think about LA, even though we have a lot of Black people here. And even here in Los Angeles, there are areas of more Black wealth. I live in one of those, and where I grew up, where there's not, and we all go to the same grocery store, so even with Black life, there are variations, but even within the variations, there are variations. And I find that fascinating. I think it makes us even stronger than what we are, than what people think we are. And I also wanted, we're interesting. We experience all those things that people read about in white thrillers and suspense novels.
Yes.
And I wanted a Black girl to be the final girl. You know, we see that all the time in like the Riley Sager and the Lucy Foley novels where, you know, there's one standing. And I want that because we have, I mean, we are a people of final girls. I mean, since we were brought over here, we're all in some sense, we're final girls. And
I love that.
I like it in my books.
I love that. You know, the other thing that had occurred to me when I was reading it, besides, again, it's an excellent thriller, it's a page turner. And the protagonist is very likable, although sometimes annoying, but
as millennials are.
Exactly.
And that was the other thing. This was the first novel I wrote that wasn't centered on me as a Gen Xer. Cora, her mom, is the Gen Xer.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, I have an 18-year-old daughter and I have nieces who are all this age between 18 and 26, who, especially, you know, now with what the world is, they flounder some, but they're still delightful.
They're still delightful.
Yeah, but they're not as savvy in some things as we are, but savvier in other things that we aren't. And so they're this weird mix of analog and digital, of spoiled and not, of wanting to be independent, but still kind of living at home. They are weird in that way. Yeah. And
you captured it. You captured it.
Yeah, and there were some, I've seen a few readers say, well, she's so annoying. It's like, have you met a 24-year-old? Because they are. Sorry, 24-year-olds, but you are. But delightfully so. I mean,
delightfully so. She was a very likable protagonist. And I did want her to grow up. But I had great hope. I have great hope for who she's going to be. You know, years. You know how when you just relate to a character. Yeah. The other thing that occurred to me, and I just wanted to know if you've experienced that, is the book. And again, it's a thriller, people. That's what it is. But it would show somebody who hasn't seen that. You know, a young Black girl who hasn't experienced what your daughters experienced, and to see themselves differently. Yeah. You know, to see possibilities, to see another aspect of it. So I really liked that. And again, you know, it wasn't a message book. But the message comes through.
Right. And another of those messages, especially when it comes to young Black women, is no matter how loved and protected you are, there's still danger. And that's where I was writing from. It's like, you know, you see, I've made the mistake of subscribing to People True Crime newsletter, and it comes every day because I crime, but you constantly see, and you're bombarded with all the obstacles and pitfalls and horrible things that are around our young women, especially, and you just hope they make it through. Yeah. And as my daughter, who is 18, about to go to college, she's loved her daddy. She's a daddy's girl. She's a mama's girl. She's smart. But even with all that, there's still that unknown out there. And that's where parents are like constantly on their knees praying that you just make it through. And in this case, you know, Mickey has some challenges before her, some growing up to do, some realization of who she is and who her parents and family are, and how they protected her from some things. And even then, some things will still get through those cracks and those alarm systems to reach you, you know?
Yeah, it was a really wonderful read. I enjoyed it and I recommend it to all of you. So you've got a new novel coming out, right? Yes. Don't you have one coming out soon?
Yes, it's called We Lie Here, and it's coming out July 12th. And it's another, so Corey is a good mom in these toxic things. She's noble and upstanding and, you know, who you want your mom to be. And We Lie Here, it's another story of a young woman, Yara, who leaves Los Angeles to go back to her hometown of Palmdale, which is like nearly about 70 miles north of Los Angeles in the Mojave Desert. And it's one of those kind of suburban towns where people who couldn't afford to live in Los Angeles, they move out there, and, you know, the cookie cutter homes, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes home to celebrate and plan her parents' 20th wedding anniversary, and they're having a party. And her cousin, Felicia, who she doesn't know, comes out of the blue to find her and says, I have something very important to tell you. Who do you think you are? And before Yara can find out more, her cousin's found dead in a lake nearby. Mm-hmm. And so she's trying to find out, again, her origin story. Like Mickey is in Toxic Things, but instead of this warm and bubbly mom, she's dealing with the mom who's not so warm and bubbly, who's another type of mom. Again, we're talking about Black experience. Not every mom bakes pound cakes and lets their daughter rifle through their closets to borrow clothes. Barbara, they call her Queen Bee, is, she's one of those prickly moms. And so it's a story, again, of mothers and daughters, of identity and discovery, of finding out what your origin story is. Because, when I first started both of these novels, it's been the pandemic. Yeah. And many of us are doing projects where we're cleaning out closets and looking through photo albums and thinking about those we've lost in these past 3 years. And sometimes the stories aren't that you heard and that you know about, they're not adding up, or there's some new wrinkle, or there's this DNA relative on 23andMe, and you're like, who is that? Mm-hmm. And so it's a moment of discovery right now. And a lot of my stories are about discovering the world and how you as a person fit inside this world and this narrative that you thought you were a part of, but not really.
Yeah. It's interesting. My first novel, Getting It Right, is of half sisters who didn't know each other existed. Uh-huh. And that finding each other, and what does it really mean to be family? And
it is.
It sounds good. I'm looking forward to reading it. Because, you mentioned just a few minutes ago, you said, I'm a mom, I have a full-time job, I'm a novelist. So how do you fit that all in? Yes. And a wife, and you're also a mama of pets, I happen to know.
Yes, can you hear my dog? She is drinking. It was her birthday yesterday. She is 13 or 14, 13 or 14. So my old blind golden retriever. It takes, I love writing. I've always loved books, and I was a journal kid, wrote every single thing down. So I love the word from the very beginning. And I like writing. I like the act. I like doing it. So that's another thing. And to get it all in, I wake up at 4, and now it's 4:35. I wake up at 4:35 every morning to write my own words, to write my own stories. And I do that from 4:35 now to about 6:45 when I say goodbye to my daughter, because she's taking my car now to drive to school. And I start my day job. And I'm blessed to have a job where I get to write still. And so both, writing novels and writing for a medical center, they support each other, because I know how to write on a dime, because I get paid to, write a condolence letter. It needs to be done by the end of the day. Okay, I'll write the condolence letter because I have to. I have no choice. So that kind of muscle, that kind of training helps me in terms of discipline for novel writing. I get up knowing that, it may not be the best words, but I'm going to put some down because I'm going to get to go back and fix that. Just that process of discovery. It's like, what is this world? What am I trying to say? Where am I trying to go with this? I look forward to it. The only times I don't write on Christmas morning, and I don't write on true vacation, meaning leaving the house.
Yeah, you're really on vacation.
I'm
unplugged.
Vacation. Yeah, I am unplugged. I read other people's stuff. I do everything else except writing. So yeah, but it's that love. When it's time to plug back in, I'm excited and I'm recharged and look forward to the next year of just going at it 4:30 in the morning every morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So this 4:30 in the morning,
Uh-huh.
4:35, do you
Mhm.
have something in progress right now? Do you have?
Yes, I do. I am working. It's will probably be out next year. It's a story, another mystery suspense thriller set on Catalina Island, which is off the coast of Los Angeles. And if you've never been to Catalina Island, you will notice a few things. First, it's very touristy. It's a little island driven by tourism. You'll also notice, and the census reports support this, that there are no Black people really living on Catalina Island. The census sets people, William Wrigley, as in the chewing gum baron, as in Wrigley Field, he basically paid for everything to be there. The Cubs used to train on Catalina Island. There are movies that were filmed there, which is why there are bison on the island. But there are no Black people because when they were developing Catalina Island, Black folks couldn't get on the ferries to take them over to Catalina. So that's fascinating to me. It's like, well, there's there aren't no Black people. And so I'm setting a story up about a Black family who did try to move there, and they were murdered, and one survived the murder. And she returns, she leaves the island as a kid, but she comes back to help take care of the house that they actually bought that's still there, and to find out who killed the family, what happened, what is it going on with this island that I'm back here and something's not right. So it's it's a story again about not necessarily origin, but of where do I belong here or not? There's something fascinating about Catalina that when, as a kid, you go over there all the time. But when we visited again this past fall, as I was thinking about this book, I took a tour, and the woman was talking about all the trees that don't belong there. Like eucalyptus trees take up a lot of water, and there's no water really there for lots of people, and just invasive species, period. And she was saying that they don't even like orange seeds on the ground because oranges are invasive. There are no orange trees on Catalina Island. And if there were, it would destroy the ecosystem around it. And I'm like, that's interesting, of things coming someplace and not.
Little parallel there.
Right. So, and that's where all of this is spinning. And it's, one of my favorite Hitchcock stories is Tippi Hedren in The Birds.
Yes.
And it's like, well, did she belong there? I mean, all the madness started when she got there. So it's all that kind of stuff into this novel.
Sounds very cool. It sounds exciting. So if our audience wanted to find you, they wanted to find everything out about you that they could, that you allow people to know,
Yes.
what is the best way? Where is the best place for them to look?
My website, which is www.rachelhowzell.com. And you can also find me on the Twitters at Rachel Howzell. That's where I live and love the most, Twitter. I'm on Instagram, but I'm old. I don't like to do so much. It's exhausting.
I know. I don't know how I happen to have old children. My children are your age, both of them. And I just don't know how that happens. How do you have children that are like middle-aged and old?
Which is why the 18 to 26-year-olds always are like annoying us because because they do it all the time. It's like Snap and TikTok, and it's just too much.
It's a native language.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much, Rachel, for being with us. And I want to thank all of you again for joining us. And I hope that you will come again for next time when we're talking about what are you reading? What are you writing? Take care.